It's been over 60 years since we first boarded the train to Hooterville. We grew up with them, laughed with them, and now it's time to say a final goodbye to some. In this deeply moving tribute, we bridge the gap between 1963 and today, revealing the triumphs and the tears of the Petticoat Junction stars. Their stories are more dramatic than any script could ever be. Grab your tissues. This journey through time is going to be unforgettable. Edgar Buchanan as Uncle Joe Carson. Born on March 20th, 1903 in Humansville, Missouri. The actor first brought his iconic character to television screens when Petticoat Junction premiered in 1963. At the age of 60, Buchanan's portrayal of the famously lazy but intensely lovable Uncle Joe Carson became a beloved staple of television comedy, serving as the heartbeat of the rural town of Hooterville. His depiction of the Shady Rest Hotel's self-appointed manager, always moving kinda slow and constantly dreaming up disastrous get-rich-quick schemes, was a massive cultural hit. Buchanan's comedic timing made him the only cast member to appear in all 222 episodes of the series, and his character's immense popularity led to regular crossover appearances on both Green Acres and the Beverly Hillbillies. Despite the character's notoriously indolent nature and constant avoidance of physical labor, Edgar Buchanan was an ambitious, highly educated professional who was the polar opposite of Uncle Joe in real life. Before pursuing a career in Hollywood, Buchanan had earned a degree in dentistry and operated a successful dental practice alongside his wife. This vast contrast between his real personality and his lethargic on-screen persona highlighted his immense acting talent, but the overwhelming success of Uncle Joe also brought professional hardships. Buchanan struggled with being heavily typecast, finding himself frequently pigeonholed as the grizzled, folksy sidekick or rural eccentric, which limited the types of roles he was offered later in his career. The conclusion of Petticoat Junction in 1970 also came as a professional blow. The series fell victim to the television network's infamous rural purge, an industry-wide shift where wildly popular countryside-themed shows were unceremoniously canceled in favor of programs appealing to urban demographics. Edgar Buchanan continued to work in television and film into the 1970s while maintaining a quiet private life away from the Hollywood spotlight. He secured a memorable supporting role in the hit 1974 family film, Benji, sharing the screen with the same dog who had played the titular canine on Petticoat Junction, and made guest appearances on shows like Cade's County. Personally, he shared a remarkably stable life, remaining married to his wife and former dental classmate Mildred for over 50 years. After officially retiring from acting, Buchanan spent his final years residing in Palm Desert, California. He passed away on April 4, 1979 at the age of 76 from complications of a stroke complicated by pneumonia. Following his death, his remains were cremated and his ashes were interred in the Columbarium of Dawn at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in the Hollywood Hills, leaving behind an enduring legacy in classic American television. Bea Benaderet as Kate Bradley. Born on April 4, 1906 in New York City. New York, the versatile actress and voice artist stepped into her most famous on-screen role when Petticoat Junction premiered in 1963. At the age of 57, Benaderet's portrayal of Kate Bradley, the warm, pragmatic, and widowed proprietor of the Shady Rest Hotel, became a massive television success. Her performance offered audiences a beloved rural matriarch, anchoring the sitcom to peak at number 4 in the Nielsen ratings. After decades of playing supporting parts, her turn as Kate was a significant cultural touchstone that proved her formidable talent as a leading lady and defined her as one of the era's most comforting television mothers. Despite Kate Bradley's steady, sensible, and unflappable nature, Benaderet was a classically trained performer who struggled against being heavily typecast as wildly extroverted, zany sidekicks or cartoonish voices. This contrast defined much of her career. She was a serious, deeply dedicated professional who had to fight industry expectations to finally land a nuanced role that wasn't, as she put it, strictly for laughs. Her professional journey was also fraught with frustrating hardships and near misses. She was Lucille Ball's original choice to play Ethel Mertz on I Love Lucy, but was forced to turn it down due to contractual obligations. Later, she endured a painful and unceremonious dismissal from her role voicing Betty Rubble on The Flintstones. with the studio spitefully leaving her uncredited on her final episodes. Just as she finally achieved top billing and creative vindication on her own show, her hard-won success was interrupted by a devastating health battle. Benaderet fought her illness valiantly to keep working, undergoing aggressive treatments, and even providing just her voice from her sickbed for her final episode while a stand-in was filmed from behind. She passed away at Good Samaritan Hospital in Los Angeles, California on October 13, 1968, at the age of 62 from lung cancer and pneumonia. Her tragic passing brought a heartbreaking aftermath. Just 4 days after her death, on the day following her funeral, her grieving husband Eugene Twombly suffered a massive fatal heart attack and was interred right beside her. Because a main character dying was almost completely unheard of in 1960s. Television, her death profoundly impacted Petticoat Junction, forcing the network to carefully write out her character and leaving behind the legacy of a brilliant talent taken at the height of her career. Lorie Saunders as Bobby Jo Bradley. Born Linda Marie Hines on October 4, 1941 in Kansas City, Missouri, the actress changed her name to Lorie Saunders and found her career-defining part. At the age of 23, she took over the role of Bobby Jo Bradley in 1965 on the hit rural sitcom Petticoat Junction, replacing original cast member Pat Woodell. Saunders completely transformed the character. While her predecessor played Bobby Jo as a book-smart intellectual, Saunders infused the role with a flighty, bubbly comedic energy that resonated widely with viewers. Her portrayal as the sweet middle daughter of the Shady Rest Hotel's proprietor became a beloved staple of 1960s television, helping to anchor CBS's massively successful block of rural comedies and leaving a lasting cultural impact on classic sitcom history. Despite the character's bubbly, ditzy, and often naive on-screen persona, Lorie Saunders was a deeply thoughtful, spiritual, and creatively driven individual in real life. A dedicated meditator, vegetarian, and outspoken advocate against the elephant ivory trade, she possessed a grounded depth that stood in sharp contrast to the comic relief of Bobby Jo. Professionally, her immense success on Petticoat Junction led to severe typecasting. Hollywood struggled to see her beyond the wholesome rural television archetype, leaving her with limited acting opportunities in an evolving entertainment landscape. She faced so significant hardships finding substantial work following the show's cancellation in 1970, leading to a few scattered guest appearances and a starring role in the short-lived, quickly canceled sitcom Dusty's Trail before she ultimately walked away from the industry, retiring from acting entirely. In 1980, Saunders found lasting fulfillment far away from Hollywood. She embraced her lifelong passions for art and photography, becoming an accomplished oil painter and sculptor, while enjoying an enduring marriage to former commercial talent agent Bernard Sandler, whom she wed in 1961, and with whom she shares 2 children. As of 2026, at the age of 84, Lorie Saunders is alive and continues to lead a quiet, fulfilling life. She remains dedicated to her charitable causes, animal rescue efforts, and fine arts, leaving behind a legacy defined not just by her classic television stardom, but by her personal reinvention and peaceful creative pursuits. Meredith MacRae as Billie Jo Bradley. Born on May 30, 1944 in Houston, Texas, the talented actress and singer first made a name for herself on My 3 Sons before joining the cast of the hit rural sitcom Petticoat Junction, which originally debuted in 1963. At the age of 22, MacRae took over the role of Kate Bradley's eldest daughter, Billie Jo Bradley, starting in the show's 4th season. Her portrayal transformed the character from a stereotypical boy-crazy farm girl into a strong, independent woman with dreams of a singing career. The show's immense popularity cemented her Billie Jo as a classic television sweetheart, and alongside her TV sisters, she even toured as a real-life musical act, making a lasting cultural impact on 1960s television while successfully establishing an identity entirely separate from her famous Hollywood parents. Despite playing a carefree, folksy country girl, Meredith MacRae was a highly intellectual, UCLA-educated woman who passionately championed women's causes, a stark contrast to the rural simplicity of the Shady Rest Hotel. Professionally, her time on the series was not without its frustrations. Behind the scenes, script changes and the producer's decision to heavily focus on the on-screen marriage of another sister cost MacRae valuable screen time, leaving her feeling sidelined and anxious for the show to end. Like many sitcom stars of her era, She also faced the heavy burden of being typecast after Petticoat Junction was canceled in 1970. This entrenched image as a wholesome sitcom daughter made it intensely difficult for her to find diverse acting work, ultimately forcing her to pivot her career away from scripted television to secure her footing in the industry. In her later years, MacRae successfully reinvented herself as an Emmy-winning talk show host for mid-morning LEA and became a beloved staple on 1970s game shows like Match Game. She also remained a resilient figure in her personal life, navigating 3 marriages including a long union with actor Greg Mullavey, with whom she shared a daughter, and lecturing nationwide about surviving the trauma of her father's alcoholism. Tragically, her life was cut short following a devastating diagnosis of stage 4 brain cancer. MacRae passed away at her home in Manhattan Beach, California on July 14, 2000 at the age of 56, from complications related to the disease, specifically severe brain swelling caused by an allergic reaction to experimental medication. Following her death, her ashes were scattered in the Pacific Ocean, and she was posthumously honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award by Women in Film. As of 2026, more than a quarter-century after her passing, MacRae's legacy as a trailblazing broadcaster and classic television icon continues to be fondly celebrated by generations of fans. Frank Cady as Sam Drucker. Born on September 8, 1915 in Susanville, California, the actor first brought the beloved general store proprietor to life on Petticoat Junction in 1963. At the age of 48, Cady's portrayal of Sam Drucker became a massive television success and a cultural touchstone of rural Americana. His grounded, sensible character served as the anchor of the fictional town of Hooterville, becoming so immensely popular that Cady made television history by playing the exact same character simultaneously on 3 different hit shows: Petticoat Junction, Green Acres, and the Beverly Hillbillies. For years, his folksy charm and ubiquitous presence behind the counter made him an unforgettable and iconic figure of classic television. Despite his flawless embodiment of an unpretentious country store clerk, Frank Cady's real-life background stood in stark contrast to his character. Cady was a highly educated urbane man who had studied journalism and drama at Stanford University, trained at the Westminster Theatre in London, and served in Europe during World War II. Professionally, his immense success as Sam Drucker became a double-edged sword, leading to severe typecasting that overshadowed his previous dramatic work and made it incredibly difficult for him to find diverse acting jobs. This hardship was compounded in the early 1970s during the network's infamous rural purge. The sweeping show cancellations wiped out the interconnected universe of Hooterville programs, suddenly leaving Cady unemployed and inextricably linked to an archetype that Hollywood was actively discarding. Frank Cady spent his later years enjoying a quiet, family-oriented life far removed from the spotlight, eventually relocating to Wilsonville, Oregon with his wife of 68 years, Shirley. He happily embraced retirement, though he reprised his iconic character one final time for the 1990 television movie Return to Green Acres. Cady passed away at his home in Oregon on June 8, 2012 at the age of 96 from undisclosed natural causes. His death was followed by a quiet, private aftermath. He was cremated and his ashes were respectfully interred at Los Osos Valley Memorial Park in California, laid to rest in the very same plot as his beloved wife who had preceded him in death 4 years earlier. Smiley Burnette as Charlie Pratt. Born Lester Alvin Burnette. On March 18, 1911, in Summum, Illinois, the prolific performer and musician brought Charlie Pratt to life on the beloved rural sitcom Petticoat Junction upon its premiere in 1963. At the age of 52, Burnette's portrayal of the jovial, folksy railroad engineer of the Hooterville Cannonball became a cherished staple of 1960s television. Operating the vintage steam-driven train with a taxi-like informality, often stopping the train to fish or pick fruit for the Shady Rest Hotel, his character perfectly captured the charming, laid-back essence of the era's rural sitcom boom, endearing him to millions of viewers. Despite playing simple-minded, bumbling country bumpkins and folksy sidekicks on screen, Smiley Burnette's real personality was that of a brilliant, highly driven, creative, and savvy businessman. In stark contrast to his uneducated characters, he was a musical prodigy who mastered over 100 instruments by ear, wrote hundreds of songs, and even founded a successful chain of drive-in restaurants called The Checkered Shirt. His career, however, was marked by significant professional hardships when the golden era of B-movie westerns collapsed in the early 1950s. Heavily typecast from his decades as a comedic sidekick, to stars like Jean Autry Burnett found it incredibly difficult to secure steady acting work as studios abandoned the genre. For a decade, he was forced to rely on grueling personal appearances at rodeos, fairs, and local drive-ins, and dealt with unsold television pilots before finally securing his major TV comeback on Petticoat Junction. Burnett remained dedicated to his craft and his castmates right up to the very end of his life. While starring on the hit sitcom, he was diagnosed with terminal leukemia, but he chose to keep his illness a closely guarded secret, determined to continue working so as not to put the show's crew and his fellow actors out of a job. He successfully managed to finish filming his final scenes for the sitcom's 4th season, but was hospitalized almost immediately afterward. Smiley Burnette passed away in Encino, California on February 16, 1967, at the age of 55 from leukemia. His sudden death profoundly impacted the production. Producers respectfully explained his character's absence as a passing within the show's storyline, a rare and poignant move for a lighthearted 1960s comedy. He was subsequently laid to rest at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Hollywood Hills, leaving behind a lasting legacy as one of the screen's most beloved comedic figures. Pat Woodell as Bobby Joe Bradley. Born on July 12, 1944 in Winthrop, Massachusetts, the statuesque brunette was initially an aspiring singer before making her mark on network television. At the age of 19, Woodell's portrayal of the smart, studious, and bookish Bobby Joe Bradley in the wholesome 1960s sitcom Petticoat Junction became an immediate hit. Debuting in 1963, the show offered viewers a comforting, nostalgic escape to the bucolic town of Hooterville. As one of the 3 teenage daughters running the Cady Rest Hotel, her character helped establish the series as a beloved cultural touchstone of rural American television, leaving a lasting impression on viewers who adored the trio of sisters. Despite the wholesome, small-town innocence of Bobby Joe, Pat Woodell's real ambitions leaned heavily toward music, and she soon felt stifled by the limitations of her television alter ego. Unlike the content and studious farm girl she played, Woodell was a restless performer who craved a prominent singing career. This stark contrast led her to voluntarily leave the hit show after just 2 seasons, a decision that brought unexpected professional hardship. Although she toured with comedian Jack Benny and recorded music, she struggled to find mainstream success in the music industry, finding conventional television work increasingly difficult. Her career took a dramatic pivot away from her family-friendly TV image. She spent the early 1970s accepting roles in a series of low-budget, gritty exploitation and women in prison films, such as The Big Doll House and The Twilight People, as she struggled to recapture the mainstream success she had initially walked away from. Disillusioned with the trajectory of her entertainment career, Pat Woodell permanently retired from acting in the mid-1970s to pursue an entirely different path. She transitioned into the corporate world, co-founding a business consulting firm, and chose to live a quiet, highly private life away from the Hollywood limelight. She eventually settled in Fallbrook, California with her second husband, Vern McDade. Woodell passed away at her home on September 29, 2015 at the age of 71 following a grueling 20-year battle with cancer. Her passing was widely covered by the media and mourned by classic television fans who continued to celebrate her indelible, albeit brief, contribution to 1960s pop culture, remembering her always as the original brainy sister of the Bradley family. Gunilla Hutton as Billie Joe Bradley. Born on May 15, 1944 in Gothenburg, Sweden, the actress arrived in the United States at age 7 before her family eventually settled in Texas. At the age of 21, she took over the established role of the beautiful and boy-crazy Billie Joe Bradley for the 3rd season of Petticoat Junction in 1965. Despite her brief 1-season stint, Hutton's portrayal of the glamorous eldest daughter of the Cady Rest Hotel left a lasting mark on the beloved series. She infused the role with her natural musical talent and Southern-adopted charm, contributing to the cultural impact of one of television's most famous fictional families during the height of the 1960s rural comedy boom. Despite the wholesome, innocent farm girl image projected by her character, Hutton's real life was markedly more complex and challenging. Her private life stood in stark contrast to the sunny disposition of Billie Joe, most notably due to a highly publicized and turbulent extramarital relationship with legendary singer Nat King Cole that ended tragically prior to her marriage. Professionally, her time on Petticoat Junction was a frustratingly brief chapter. She appeared in only 23 episodes before unexpectedly departing the series at the end of her lone season. While she eventually secured a long-term 21-year stint on the country music variety show Hee Haw, this success came with the heavy professional burden of typecasting. Constantly being boxed into the mold of a ditzy comedic dumb blonde made it exceedingly difficult for her to be taken seriously in Hollywood, severely limiting her opportunities to secure dramatic leading roles outside of sporadic guest spots and game show appearances. Following her departure from Hee Haw in 1992, Hutton largely stepped away from the Hollywood spotlight to focus on her personal life. She married former Air Force pilot Alan Freeman, and the couple raised 3 children together, remaining married for over 4 decades until his death in 2014. Despite her retreat from mainstream acting, she has occasionally reunited with her former Petticoat Junction co-stars Linda Kay, Henning, and Lorie Saunders for classic television conventions and promotional commercials, including a 2015 spot for MeTV. As of 2026, at the age of 81, she continues to live a quiet and intensely private life. Maintaining no social media presence, she enjoys a peaceful retirement while remaining a fondly remembered icon of classic Americana television. Linda Henning as Betty Jo Bradley. Born on September 16, 1944 in Los Angeles, California, the actress first brought Betty Jo to life on the beloved rural sitcom Petticoat Junction. At the age of 18, Henning's portrayal of the tomboyish baseball-playing middle daughter of the Bradley family became a cultural touchstone, offering a primetime depiction of a wholesome, independent rural youth that was both endearing and significant. For 7 seasons, her vibrant energy and genuine warmth defined a character that matured alongside the audience, remaining the only one of the original 3 sisters to stay with the hit show for its entire run. Despite the character's outgoing and rough-and-tumble nature, Linda Henning was naturally shy and classically trained in ballet, possessing a real-life elegance that felt like the polar opposite of the tomboyish Betty Jo. This contrast was a significant part of her personal journey. She originally began performing to overcome her extreme childhood shyness and found playing the unpolished rural girl to be a distinct departure from her refined artistic roots. Her career was also marked by the struggle of being typecast, which for a period made it difficult for her to find prominent on-screen work after the show's long run. The end of Petticoat Junction itself brought a professional sting. The series was abruptly canceled in 1970 as part of the network's infamous Rural Purge, a disheartening end to a 7-season journey. Furthermore, she had to constantly battle industry skepticism, working relentlessly to prove she was a talented actress in her own right, and not simply a nepotism hire given that her father, Paul Henning, created the show. Linda Henning continued to work in television and theater for decades, heavily pivoting to stage plays, musicals, and voice work for the California Artists Radio Theater. She made guest appearances on classic shows like Happy Days and Mork and Mindy, and later took on the recurring role of Mrs. Mallory in the 1990s sci-fi series Sliders. In her personal life, she famously married her Petticoat Junction co-star Mike Miner in 1968, though they divorced in 1973. She later found lasting love and married actor Leon Ashby Adams in 1994. As of 2026, at the age of 81, she is largely retired from on-screen acting, but remains a cherished figure in classic television history, occasionally participating in nostalgic retrospectives and celebrating the enduring legacy of the iconic series that defined her early career. Rufe Davis as Floyd Smoot. Born on December 2, 1908 in Vinson, Oklahoma, the talented vaudevillian and voice mimic first brought Floyd Smoot to life on Petticoat Junction in 1963. At the age of 54, Davis's portrayal of the happy-go-lucky, somewhat block-headed conductor of the Hooterville Cannonball became a cultural touchstone of 1960s rural-themed television. For several seasons, his cheerful demeanor and memorable comedic timing defined a character that endeared him to audiences and cemented his place in the shared universe of Petticoat Junction, Green Acres, and the Beverly Hillbillies. Despite the character's simple-minded and blissfully ignorant nature, Rufe Davis was a sharp, seasoned entertainer and an intensely hardworking individual, a stark contrast to the delightfully lazy and easygoing Floyd. His personal and professional journey involved decades of grueling travel on the vaudeville and nightclub circuits, where he meticulously perfected his impressive vocal imitations of animals and train whistles. Later in his career, Davis faced significant professional hardships, struggling to secure diverse roles as the industry began moving away from the folksy humor that had defined his livelihood. The infamous rural purge of 1970 brought a disheartening professional sting. It abruptly ended, Petticoat Junction, canceling the beloved series and leaving character actors like Davis heavily typecast and facing great difficulty finding work in a rapidly shifting television landscape. Rufe Davis effectively retired from the entertainment industry following the conclusion of Petticoat Junction and a few final guest appearances in 1970. He spent his later years dealing with severe health issues that severely limited his ability to perform, living quietly with his second wife Nettie away from the Hollywood spotlight. His final major feature film role was in the 1969 family comedy Angel in My Pocket. Davis passed away at Little Company of Mary Hospital in Torrance, California on December 13, 1974, at the age of 66 from a fatal heart attack following complications from open-heart surgery earlier that fall. His death marked the quiet end of a prolific comedic career, and he was laid to rest at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in the Hollywood Hills, remembered fondly as one of classic television's most iconic sidekicks. Mike Minor as Steve Elliott. Born on December 7, 1940 in San Francisco, California, the talented singer and actor joined the cast of Petticoat Junction in 1966. At the age of 25, Minor's portrayal of Steve Elliott, a handsome crop-dusting pilot who crashes his plane in Hooterville, became a defining element of the series. As the steadfast and upright romantic lead, his character successfully transitioned the rural sitcom from its earlier slapstick roots into more grounded romantic and musical territory. Steve's eventual marriage to Betty Jo Bradley became a highly publicized television event that resonated deeply with viewers, solidifying his status as a beloved clean-cut American heartthrob of the 1960s. While Steve Elliott was the epitome of the settled, perfectly reliable boy next door, Mike Minor's real life and personality were far more dynamic and layered. A passionate golfer, professional singer, and lively nightclub performer, Minor found himself tightly bound to the wholesome Hooterville universe. This blending of reality and fiction peaked when he married his on-screen wife, Linda Kay Henning, in real life just a year after their characters wed on television. However, the immense public pressure and the blurring of their personal and professional lives contributed to their divorce 5 years later. Professionally, Minor faced the difficult hurdle of being typecast as the squeaky clean rural sitcom star. The cancellation of Petticoat Junction in 1970, brought on by a detrimental time slot move, and the tragic death of series star Bea Benaderet, left him struggling to break free from Steve Elliott's shadow. He eventually had to take on starkly contrasting roles, such as playing a conniving con man on the Beverly Hillbillies, just to prove his range and secure consistent work. Mike Minor spent his later decades pivoting away from primetime comedy to find a stable home in the world of daytime television, taking on recurring soap opera roles in shows like All My Children, Another World, and The Edge of Night. He eventually settled into a much more private life, finding lasting happiness with his third wife, Marilyn, whom he married in 1981, and focusing on his family and his lifelong love of golf. Minor passed away in New York City on January 28, 2016, at the age of 75. His death was followed by a distressing media aftermath, where widespread reports erroneously claimed he had succumbed to cancer. This prompted his family to publicly intervene and issue statements to correct the record, clarifying that the beloved actor had actually passed away peacefully and suddenly from natural causes. Janine Riley as Billie Jo Bradley. Born on October 1, 1940, in Fresno, California, and raised in the nearby agricultural hub of Madera, the actress beat out 300 competitors to land the part of the eldest Bradley sister on Petticoat Junction. At the age of 22, Riley's portrayal of the glamorous, bubbly, and boy-crazy Billie Jo Bradley became a massive hit. As part of CBS's immensely popular rural television universe, her character embodied a wholesome yet captivating slice of Americana, making her a memorable television figure and helping the series become a beloved cultural touchstone of the 1960s. Despite Billie Jo's famously lighthearted, carefree, and extroverted television persona, Janine Riley's real-life journey was deeply introspective, marked by a personal struggle with self-worth and an exhausting habit of constantly trying to please others rather than herself. Professionally, the immense success of her rural-themed characters became a difficult double-edged sword. Riley voluntarily left Petticoat Junction after just 2 seasons in hopes of launching a major movie career, but she soon found herself severely typecast. Finding it incredibly difficult to secure the diverse feature film work she desired, she was repeatedly pigeonholed into playing similar country girl roles on television shows like Hee Haw and Dusty's Trail. Riley later lamented the professional hardship of this typecasting, admitting that while those shows paid the bills, it was an incredibly frustrating creative rut to escape. Janine Riley continued to act in various guest-starring roles before officially stepping away from the entertainment industry, with her final credited on-screen performance coming in the 1991 thriller Time Bomb. In her later years, she embraced a quiet and private retirement, dedicating her time to personal growth, spiritual studies, and eventually writing. In 2020, she authored the self-help memoir, The Bolder Woman, It's About Time, aiming to inspire women to passionately pursue their dreams regardless of their age. As of 2026, at the age of 85, she is still alive, enjoying a peaceful life while proudly retaining her legacy as one of the few surviving main cast members of the classic sitcom. The whistle of the cannonball might have faded, but the simplicity and charm of Hooterville still resonate in a fast-paced world. Seeing how the cast evolved reminds us of the precious nature of time and the enduring power of classic storytelling. These legends shaped an era of television that will never be replicated. If this journey down memory lane touched your heart today, please give this video a like and hit that notification bell to stay connected with the golden age of Hollywood.